What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all dance groups mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost for having me on for Lunch and Learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there on the hats.
Right.
We start
Special needs children and civilians.
I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructing what we took part in deconstruct. All of street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait a
I also partner with other daycares. We're not in a competition yet. We're not in a competition.
What's going on, Juneteenth family? I am your host, Kiara, aka MBG. I am happy to be here with you today. As we close this Women's History Month, we had, oh my God, a dynamic group of women this month that has just been coming and just shutting it down, and today is no different. The woman of honor today is Miss Kimberly Bryant. I am excited to bring her to the stage. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a renowned leader in the technology industry. Okay, she's a visionary. She's the founder of Ascend Ventures. Her commitment to the diversity and driving positive social impact has created significant strides, okay, in reshaping the landscape of technology and entrepreneurship. As the CEO of Ascend Ventures, her mission is to create pathways for marginalized founders to thrive in the tech sector while building impactful companies. All right. Not only has she done that, but with initiatives like the Black Innovation Lab, Kimberly has invested in the new generation of leaders in technology, bringing her journey with over 100,000 students. Okay, let me say that number again. 100,000 students in the Black Girls Code. And we're talking about global expansion here. Her dedication to technology is serious, is real. Her social change has been impacting so many people. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please bring Kimberly up to the stage? Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here with you today, Kiara.
I'm happy to have you here. I was as I was reading over your bio, I'm like, oh yeah, I absolutely am looking forward to sitting across from her and just having some great conversation and getting some insight in this technology world, and so much going on. But before we even jump into all of that, please give us a little bit about your background, your upbringing, and how do we get the Kimberly that we're across from today?
Yeah, so that's a packed question. I would say I always want to lead like I'm a Southern girl, born and bred in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
Went to college in Tennessee, so that Southern ethos is like deeply embedded in my spirit, and I think it's special, like being from Memphis. It has such a pivotal place in this whole notion of like what freedom means for Black people when we look at the civil rights movement and the impact of the city in that time period and where we are now. And so that is really kind of like the pot that I was kind of brewed and cooked in Memphis. And I went on from there and started like going this path of getting into technology as an engineer. I got a degree in electrical engineering, graduated, worked in corporate America for almost 25 years before I came out to the Bay Area, then jumped into the technology industry and started this nonprofit called Black Girls Code. And that was really, I want to say, a gift, if you will, because daughter was a geeky little girl, like always on her Game Boy and computers and gaming. And I wasn't seeing too many people that looked like her. And so I knew what that experience could be like from my own background as an engineer, and I wanted to change that experience if I could for her, and that is why I created Black Girls Code. I still here in the Bay Area, and now working on my next venture, which is Black Innovation Lab, which is an initiative out of Ascend Ventures. But that is taking the vision that started with just getting kids into technology and coding. The next step further is not only how can we go and work for tech companies, how can we become the creators of this tech innovation economy and be the ones that are creating the jobs in this economy? Because I think, you know, this pathway to really create a generational change is about ownership. And so I think about that, you know, in this notion of talking about Juneteenth. How do we create and hold on to the legacies that we put our lifeblood, talents, and efforts in?
Yes.
And that's all I'm trying to do for the next. I want to say
that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. It's not trying. That's what you are doing. Yes.
All right. Well, that's my mission, you know, is to really kind of lead this vision of like how we can become maybe that's just it. How do we become who we are in our own right with our own talents in whatever pathway we decide to go in?
And I love that, because as I was looking and I'm like, Black Girls Code, that's it speaks volume in exactly what you said. We don't see many of us in that area, you know. And when I was doing my research, I said, you know what, how do we, I wanted to ask you you start with this idea, right? And you create this company, and it grows from a baby to a global impact. What is that process like? How do you even get your company to grow and expand to something so huge beyond just a vision? And I know you said that was the mission, but what does it take to make that mission come true?
Yeah, I think of that a lot in terms of like, because I'm now back in the trenches building from 0 to 1 all over again. And I'm like, oh, like, I don't know how I did this. Like, I'm being honest, like when I think about it, sometimes I was like, oh, I don't know how I did this. So I think that it really has to be something that a founder is like truly passionate about, because there are times when I was away from home, away from my daughter, you know, although I could take her with me some of the way, not all the time, you know, like I had to put my own dollars and invest in the business myself. It was just from my savings account. That's how we started. Yeah. Before we even got anyone to write us a single check. So there was nights, like work 7 days a week, a lot. Now, I don't necessarily suggest that you burn yourself out, but sometimes that's what it takes when you're really driven. And for me, I think about it from the standpoint that I got into creating as a nonprofit leader truly by something that I believed in, because the manifestation of my vision was like literally right in my own home. It was my daughter. So it wasn't about the accolades. I wasn't trying to get on any stages. I was trying to create opportunities for little Black girls like my daughter that didn't have a mom that worked in a high-tech company, that didn't have a mom that worked in biotech, because that was me. Like, I came from the city. And so I think it was a very pure intention about doing this work because it needed to be done, and not because of anything that I saw as a potential outcome, you know, 10, 20 years later. It was a very pure intention. And that kind of like drove me and my small team that I started with, even when I couldn't pay them. Like, I couldn't pay my team. I didn't pay myself for like 3 years. I couldn't pay my team for like 2. Like, we were just so passionate as Black women that this needed to exist. And that drove us. And I would say the second thing, which I love about your platform, is that we were closely tied to communities. So like, we didn't initially think that, oh, this is going to be a global organization that is going to go beyond the Bay Area. Nah, it was none of that. we were trying to be in Bayview, Hunters Point, San Francisco. Then we moved over to Oakland. We were trying to be as deeply connected to community as possible. And we grew from there organically. I was sharing with someone the other day. They were like, well, how did you expand and grow and go from like 15 girls in the class to 200? I was like, listen, we certainly put boots on the ground. Like we went out, knocked on doors. But then we started to really grow organically by word of mouth, by one girl going to school and say, hey, I'm in this program, or mom's talking, because we stayed deeply connected to the community from one. And I think when we're building, and we talk about movement building, if people are not connected to the community, you may not be too successful. Like you have to build in proximity. You know, you have to be proximal to where the solutions are that you're trying to build. And that's what I think helped us to really grow and expand, even when we thought we would always just be a local grassroots organization here in the Bay.
The footsteps, you know, putting in the groundwork, just as you said, lacing those boots up and getting out there. And even with technology and social media being this huge platform now that, you know, it's just a click of a button that somebody could follow you or like or love what you're doing. I think that word of mouth is always going to be the most valuable asset to like just growing brands and companies, because if you trust, you know, the person that you're hearing this information from, you're going to check it out, you know. So just as you're saying, organically building something and working on it, and just from the passion, when you're passionate about something, is different. It resonates with people different, it comes across different, and you kind of have this energy that's transferable, that people want to, they want to be involved, you know. So with that being said, what do you think is the most important lesson, outside of course the lessons that you teach and provide to the students within technology, but what is the most important lesson that Black Girls Code aim to teach these young ladies? And what do you think that, like, what have some of the ladies told you that they've been able to take from being a part of that program?
Yeah, I would say, you know, like I would say on the surface, and I've said this a lot, it's about teaching girls to code and learn about the technology industry and be able to have an access way into the technology. So I think at a macro level, it is that. That is the mission of the organization. But I think if you like start to pull back those layers, you know, and see what's beneath that, it really is about self-efficacy and self-actualization. So when we look at Black girls and even Black women today in society, we are the most beleaguered. You know, like Malcolm X said, the most disrespected person in America is a Black woman. So like, think of that from the lens of a Black girl, and how demonized and marginalized and victimized Black girls are in our society, not just here in the US, but abroad. So I think at the ultimate level, deeply what we were attempting to do within Black Girls Code, and what I think we have begun to do is change that narrative, not for anybody external, because, you know, the external world is going to think what it thinks. But we have to have a different view and know exactly who we are, that we're not the problem, but that we are the solution. And so that's what we were always really trying to do within Black Girls Code under my leadership, is to really get girls to understand that they were enough. They were enough just as they came into that classroom. Yes, they might go away with some skill that they didn't have before, but they were already enough as soon as they stepped into the door, as soon as they arrived into this universe, and to make sure that they believe that fully. And so for all the girls, that alumni that still keep in touch with me, that still reach out to me and tell me what they're doing, you know, Miss Kimberly, I'm doing this, that, and the other. That's what I see, is that, you know, whether or not they stayed in tech or went into another direction, they definitely are leaders. They understand who they are and what they're capable of. And I think that is the truest manifestation of the legacy of BGC.
Absolutely. And just your stride in being able to amplify these voices and these stories of these young ladies that turn into young women that are women, and just giving them that backing of, we got your back. We're here for you, and we're gonna walk this walk with you. We're gonna show you what we know, because oftentimes we talk about it on the show that if you don't know, you don't know. If you in order to learn, you have to be receptive of information, and you have to have that mentorship. And within the Black community, sometimes we don't always have access to the mentorship that we need. So being able to have these platforms and organizations are something that's definitely life-changing. And we commend you, of course, for that. And moving into talking about the Black Innovation Lab, can you please tell us about the Black Innovation Lab?
Yes. So when I transitioned from my role previously, I wanted to do something. I started to really just kind of figure out, okay, what is my next path? What do I want to focus on? And I started to talk to lots of different innovators, creators, founders like myself that were either in the for-profit or nonprofit space. And I found that there was a common thread, like with everybody. Everybody was trying to get these initiatives off the ground, and they often didn't have access to capital. Like access to capital is and always has been an issue with Black founders. Like we get less than 1% of venture capital, like in the for-profit space. And if you look at nonprofit organizations led by Black folks, we don't get enough funding for our organizations to scale either. And so I wanted to address that because I knew that there were other folks that were like me. They may be building in fintech. They may be building in climate change. They may be doing social justice. It didn't matter. Like they needed this support just to get a start. And so I wanted to do that work. And I also wanted to do that work back proximal again to community, and an opportunity arose for me to build Black Innovation Lab in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. And it became, like a full circle moment almost with me. Like I had not lived in Memphis since I graduated from high school in the mid 80s. There certainly was a Black Girls Code chapter in Memphis. There still is, but I had not done work on the ground. There. And I said, like this, I feel this is a call back home, like to bring, all these talents, all this knowledge, all this connection that I have gained over the last, since I graduated. Well, it's 40 years, like 4 decades of being away from Memphis.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot. And when I go back home to my hometown to visit my family, I see that the community is still suffering. And I was like, nah, I could build this anywhere, but where I'm called to build is to go back home. And so like, that is my vision, is to really plant this seed in Memphis. I think it's overdue for there to be opportunities for I don't even want to say Black excellence, because at times I don't like that term. I want to say for Black talent and Black genius to grow. Like I want to be able to plant that seed and give some opportunities for folks right there in Memphis to have access to build and grow and really create some long-lasting generational change.
So what are the steps if somebody wanted to get involved in being a part of the Black Innovation Lab? What are the steps, or what are the requirements for somebody to be involved?
So what we're doing this year, so we are actually building Black Innovation Lab in this historical HBCU location called Griggs College. It was founded by a Black woman, so it's appropriate for we're in Women's History Month. Emma Griggs created Griggs College back at the beginning of the 20th century to educate Black people that were coming back from the war veterans, etc., and give them access to white collar clerical jobs and such. And so this space was in disrepair, and a Black woman, another young Black woman architect, found it and is bringing it back to life. And the accelerator will live in the historical home of Griggs College. We still have about, I want to say, a year and a half before the building is ready for us to move into with the first cohort. So for now, if there are businesses that are interested in being a part of those cohorts, they can go to our website, blackinnovationlab.org, and send us an email, and we will eventually have open call for cohorts to come into the accelerator. But this year, we're going to start our educational programs. And I'm bringing this like passion with me from BGC days, is that I think while we are certainly going to be building and investing in innovators of today, like we need to build the funnel, because I think entrepreneurship is a muscle, right? Like and like what you said, Kiara, like if you don't know, you don't know. Yes. And we're like, oh no, like we need to know the knowledge. Like before they really start this business, how do we build that entrepreneurial mindset? So this year we're going to be doing 2 pilot programs, one here in Oakland, California, one in the fall to be determined, where we work with high school students and we bring teams into a cohort and help them to build an application idea and get it out into the marketplace. So these educational programs are going to be a core part of what we're doing at Black Innovation Lab, and we're going to start that work this year.
Amazing. In simple terms, of somebody who may not be familiar with technology, or just getting a start, they might like computers, they might like tech, but they're like, I don't know if that's for me. What do you think are some of the advantages of technology? And today, I mean, I know that it's like, I can imagine what it's probably like open to possibilities, because every day is something new. But what are some of the advantages, and what do you think is some of the information that's like withheld from the average person that would kind of, intimidate them from like really stepping into it? But it's like, no, this is simple. If you just do this or that or this. What are some of those things that you can share with us today?
Yeah, well, I think that technology, is important because it touches like every single industry that you can possibly imagine. There's very few industries that I can think of that don't have some type of technology component. Yeah. And so I've said for years, there's this phrase that a futurist named Douglas Rushkoff coined that says code or be coded. And it's like, you can either learn about this technology or you can be used by this technology. Yes. One way or the other, technology is impacting your life. Yeah. And so I think it's important for us to have the knowledge. So like whether or not a person decides to go and build a tech company in finance or climate tech, or it may be ag tech, whatever it is, like I want you to understand how technology is being used. So like when you're going to the airport, you scan in, they do the retina scan, that is using technology. When you get on social media, almost every social media platform right now uses a social media algorithm that's technology. Just know what to send you. And so I think it's important for us as creators of color, or just people of color, to have knowledge of how the technology is being used, but also to become the creators, because these technologies run on algorithms. There are algorithms that are written, and if we are not the ones doing the writing, then those algorithms most likely don't impact us in a positive way. And so I think, it's about, I would say this is not so much about like necessarily, like possibly you may say, I want to create a tech company in artificial intelligence that does X, Y, Z. More so thinking about it from the standpoint, like I have a business idea. I want to help kids learn how to do their homework quicker. Well, it's probably going to be a way to accelerate that idea utilizing some type of technology tool. Yeah. Whatever that may be. It could be AI, it could be, maybe it's blockchain, maybe it's data visualization, maybe it's VR, reality. It's so many different tools can be used, that technology is an accelerator. So like I've always said, that technology is not an end in itself. It is a tool. And whatever you may be doing, even if you have a small business now, you should be thinking about, how can I utilize technology as an accelerator to help me do what I am doing now faster, quicker, easier, more efficiently. We have to understand the tools so that we can use them to our benefit.
I think that sometimes in our communities, people often get stuck in the times of, oh, honey, I don't do that way, or I'm not using, I don't want to, like, you almost are closed off to learning new things. And it's like, no, as technology evolves, it's not deeming what you've done before like irrelevant, but you also have to stay with the times to be able to evolve with the times, and as you mentioned just now a few times, artificial intelligence is continuing to change the face of technology, and the entry level of technology is so easy to just get on the chat GTP now, or and type in something and get an answer. Isn't it, do you believe personally that artificial intelligence, do you think it's an advantage in using technology, or do you think it's kind of like canceling out the creativity of our actual, thought process of certain things?
I am cautiously optimistic about artificial intelligence, and I say that because I feel like I don't know if I'm an early adopter, but I certainly utilize artificial intelligence on a day-to-day basis. I use different AI tools, Chat GPT, Chat PDF. Like there's so many. I use two handfuls of different AI tools on a weekly basis. And it helps me to do the work that I do. So I think there's so many benefits to it, but I think there's also a risk. So I think but it's not going away. So that would be the third thing I say. Artificial intelligence is not going away. It's going to become more prolific. And there are risks, but there are also advantages. So I think it behooves us in that light to understand what it is, how it works, how it is integrated in the tools that we're using now, and how it's becoming more integrated, but also to really be adamant to push on government to regulate and to monitor so that it's not used, especially against Black and brown folks, in a way that is harmful to us. And we have to understand it in order to call for those reforms and to hold folks accountable.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. And just like you said, even with us not knowing, we're using it in their lives. Our phone scans our face. Like everything is technology, and we got to get with it. We have to get with it in order to be able to sustain. So you told us about the Black Innovation Lab. I know that that's a part of the Ascend Ventures. Please give me some background on Ascend Ventures.
So Ascend Ventures is a company, an umbrella organization that I created as a portal, if you will, for my creative endeavors post creating my first nonprofit organization. Ultimately, I really hope to build a venture capital fund so that I can invest in founders, not just in Black Innovation Lab, but all over the US. Because as I said, one of the things that I knew to be a truth is that there wasn't a lack of talent anywhere. There was a lack of opportunity. Absolutely. And so I want to be one of those folks writing the checks, not just, asking for checks. So part of what, we eventually want to do within Ascend Ventures is build a $50 million fund that can invest in creators that come from marginalized communities and are creating, I call these companies generational catalysts. So I'm looking to build a VC firm that invests in companies that are going to make a generational impactful change. And so it's not just a company that is doing something that's not going to shift and increase equity in the society, I would probably not be a good candidate for my fund, because I'm looking for companies that can actually move the needle around environmental sustainability and equity over a century or two. So generational catalysts. And so part of what we wanted to do is like build this vision out in stages. So starting this year with the launch of the educational programs via Black Innovation Lab. Next year, we actually launch into the cohorts within Black Innovation Lab. And then that following year, actually have raised this fund so that we can expand beyond Memphis and invest in these founders that are building these companies.
How do we, what is that process in choosing, or, well, I don't know if it would be you choosing the founders or them choosing you, but creating that business relationship, how does that go about? Is it just like, okay, you know, we have a meeting, I give you my proposal of what we're trying to do, or is it, how simple or complex is that process?
Well, I always want to say, and I want to say, give a cautionary tone that I don't think that every business should be going for venture capital. Like it's not like part of my struggle, even in terms of going in this direction and exploring getting into venture capital myself, is that I feel that the industry is overdue for some disruption. Like this industry began
a little bit.
Silicon Valley era, like 1940s or so, late 1940s or so, here in the Bay Area. This industry of venture capital really began, and it didn't begin with folks that look like us.
Yeah.
And it can be a very extractive model. And so as I've learned more about the industry, I've had this conflicting feelings, if you will, about like, do I want to do this? Because this model is really extractive in ways. And I think that, communities of color thrive in more collectivism and collectivism based models. And that is not it. And so part of my struggle is like really figuring out how to do this in a way that is not just extractive from community. But so I think there's only like, less than 1% of companies probably shouldn't be going to get venture capital. There are other ways to build businesses. And I think more business founders should look at ways that they can acquire capital, because venture capitalists, we want you to build a $1 billion business, multi-billion dollar business. And that is going to be a small fraction of those companies. Yeah. However, I do think that Black people can build multi-billion dollar businesses just as well as anyone else. And so we need to have opportunities to do that. So when there is a founder that has a company that they feel has a potential in the marketplace to become the next Google, to become the next Amazon, and they build that vision, starting with putting together a pitch deck, as we call it, or a business proposal. The process begins with them actually just talking to folks like me who are venture capitalists and have these funds that can actually invest in the stage of the business that they are in. For our fund, what our vision is that we will be investing very early. So we call that pre-seed or seed. So from idea to first check. So when a founder has an idea, of what they think they can do in the marketplace, to getting that first check, that's when we want to come in and give them a bit of seed capital to get started. So once we launch, that's what we'll be looking for along the specific verticals that I mentioned, health tech, fintech, sustainability, and supply chain.
For small businesses or people that, have ideas in technology, but may not be on the grand level of like, I want this to become, as huge as a Google or something of that nature. What advice would you give them as far as technology and the use of the technology that they can utilize? Because I'm a small business owner. I work in entertainment. I DJ. I host. I work in radio. I do things. And I'm like, you know what? just listening to you talk is so many different avenues that I'm thinking of. And I'm like, I could possibly, utilize tech more within my business, but maybe I don't know how to go about, what would be the first step that I would take, or what are some things that I could read or listen to or just tap in with to be able to just expand and open my mind a little bit more in that area.
Well, I would say this, Kiara. So I think for me, I'm always to warn business owners, whether they're, in a venture capital type venturable business or a small business, like the key is to run as if, even in nonprofit, you got to run as efficiently as possible and get what you're trying to deliver, product out, students taught, shows produced, whatever the thing is that you're doing, you want to do that as efficiently as possible so that you can get to profitability. So like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. Like, you got to get to profitability, because otherwise you just turning your wheels.
Yeah.
And so I think from a small business standpoint, and the decision then becomes really being able to break your business up into a compartmentalized vision of fashion, where you can see where you are expending the most time, talent, or dollars. Look at that. Where you spend time, where you spend your talent, where you spend your dollars. And then seeing, is there a tool? Is there some type of technology tool or process that I can use to minimize that? Because that is your resources. So the business perspective, you're trying to get to profitability. So like, even in the startup space, most companies fail because they can't get the profitability. And unless you're a company like Uber, like some of the companies that have had billions of dollars poured into them and are still not profitable, you're probably not going to make it. So like, you got to get to profitability. And so that's how you decide, what do you want to utilize from a technology stack? And that's how you build your technology stack, is figuring out where is your time, where your resources spent, and how could I utilize some technology tool, whatever that may be, to make it more efficient. I'll give you an example. I was doing a coaching session with a young sister who's a founder of an AI company a couple of days ago, and she's building this AI tool for the service industry, but starting in the restaurant industry, that will not only help diners, like on the consumer side, figure out where they want to go and actually dine, and like where restaurants to go to. It's more than that, though, because she's using artificial intelligence, because she can then build this database that a restaurant owner can look and see, like, where are my customers coming from? What are the, things on the menu that are selling? What things are not selling? How can we manage, that more efficiently by doing more of the things that people are coming here to find, and looking at the demographics. And so like, it could be a very powerful tool in the restaurant industry, because more than 60% of restaurants fail. And so I was like, you have something here. And I think you can expand beyond just this one hospitality vehicle, because technology is not as prominent in the hospitality area. So it's looking, like I said, at where is there a problem or a pain point in your business, and then figuring out how you can leverage technology to help you be smarter, and then eventually get to profitability, because that's all that really matters in the end.
So many gems just now. I hope everybody that's listening, you taking notes, because I'm definitely, after this is over, I'm going to play it back and I'm going to take my notes. But so many gems just now. And in layman terms, is work smarter, not harder. You figure things out, and you, just like you said, once you map it out in detail of where's your time going, you'll be able to see, and it'll be transparent of like, okay, I'm spending too much time here, and I'm not making a profit. And it just made me think of something that I heard not too long ago. They were like, if you're wearing all the hats in your business and you're doing everything, and say, for instance, you're filing all the paperwork and that takes you 5 hours to do. If you're not making any money doing that, and you could give that to somebody else to do, or do it in a different way, have AI do it, or, you know, in some kind of way. So you free up those 5 hours. Now you can be doing something that's going to help you make profit. It just makes so much more sense. So
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you, and thank you for that insight, and for those examples, because it's very useful. And you know, in entrepreneurship, you almost sometimes think that you have to do everything. If you don't do everything, then it's gonna fall apart, you know. But it's like, no, let me think smarter and direct certain things in certain areas so that I can be most efficient in the place that's needed most. So that's
Right.
you know, useful information.
I would add this one thing I've heard often, Kiara, and I also like, certainly when I coach like the founders that I'm coaching from the nonprofit or for-profit side, both, like you, Kiara, you are your asset, your greatest asset in your business. Hands down, point blank, period. That's it. Like, you are the most important asset.
Yeah.
So you need to take everything. And I was told this as I was building as well, even though I didn't want to do it because I was trying to do everything. But you have to take everything off your plate except that only you can do. So the list of things that only you can do, make that list. Everything else, you need to delegate those things. You need to automate those things, but you shouldn't be doing those things. You should be only focus on the things that only you can do it, because your greatest asset is yourself.
Oh my God. Thank you. Yes, much needed, for real. And I know somebody that's watching, absolutely you can relate, and you can need. We have Diana, she said, focusing on a target, plan, and delegate. Absolutely. You know, that's what we need for sure. I want to ask you, in a world of tech, how do you stay grounded in society, of your personal, you know, tactics, and how do you obtain and keep up your self-care and things of that nature for yourself personally?
Like I've been and I say honestly, I have not been over the previous decade very good about this, because I am a Capricorn. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. Have been. But during the pandemic, you know, to be honest, like it was a wake-up call for me, because it slowed me down. Like I used to travel like 2-3 times. I'm in California. I used to travel, you know, back and forth to New York, DC, like 2-3 times a month. It was bananas. And then when the pandemic hit and everything slowed down and stopped, you know, it had to make me rethink things, you know, and over the last, I want to say the last 3 years, I moved from the city in San Francisco to Oakland. I finally had some green space, and I got back into this habit, this hobby, not even habit, a hobby that I had for years of gardening. And I've always been a gardener, like dibbled and dabbled in gardening, but I'm like, you know, like I am definitely obsessed with my garden. That's the first thing I do in the morning. Like I feed the dog and go in the garden. And I walk around in the yard, and it has been a healing space for me, because it allows me to just like slow down. It allows me to connect, you know, to ground myself literally in the earth. You know, gardening is a process, and a process that's not fast. Like it's not fast like technology. It's so like, I think that's the balance, right? The yin and the yang.
Yes.
And I think the universe must know I needed that, because gardening is slow. You know, I plant some seeds out in that garden. It's going to take some weeks before I see anything. And that has been good for me to bring that balance back, and being able to go out to, you know, to you know, I want to say to work in the soul, to really be able to see something from the very first signs of life, and to make mistakes, and then to go and have to move things over. And I think for me, that connection to nature has been so very important over the last 3 years in particular. So like for me, I think when I'm talking to folks, and especially for Black people, I think you see a lot of us now like talking about like going back and, you know, starting to farm, you know, doing this, hiking, getting into And I feel that that's an ancestral calling for us. Like I do, like that's a whole nother, I think we do another podcast on that because I do.
Yes.
I think, the call back to the land is an ancestral call. Like I feel it, like nobody taught me how to grow these things, but I know it.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from? And so like, I think it's important for us to understand those roots and that heritage and push past what pushed us away from it, right? Because we came here tilling this land. Like, okay, we're talking about Juneteenth. That's what we came to do.
Oh my God.
That is in our DNA, but how do we do that in a way that now it becomes a healer for us? And that's what I do. I talk about gardening for like a whole, as I say, a podcast, because it has been such a balancer for me, and I'm so grateful to be able to be blessed to have the space to do it.
That was so refreshing. I love that for you, one, and I love that just in general. And just like you said, oh my God, that's a conversation that we could have, and oh my God, just continue to go on. But just with you talking about your gardening experience, I thought about it the other day as I was opening the window, just something as simple as opening the window shade. I said, I know the seasons are changing, we're in the spring now, and I have a big tree in front of my house, and I'm like, I feel like I never catch it when the tree is sprouting and the leaves are the spring coming. So the other day I was able to see it, and I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, this is like the first time that I'm actually seeing the bud come out. Like I feel like it goes from bare, and then it's just like, oh, we have these green leaves now, and I'm like, oh, this is the change. Like I'm actually seeing the sprout of a new season, and it just made me think of so much in my life. And I'm like, I'm on a new personal journey as well, but it's sprouting, and just like you said, it takes time. In a world of technology, we want everything to be instantaneous, and it's like, oh, it's taking too long. You know what? Maybe it's not going to work. But it's like when you really sit down and you garden and you plant and you put water to the seeds, you see things grow. So we need
and you see, and I think the beautiful thing about nature is that, to your point, like when your tree outside goes through its different seasons, there is transformation. So like things have to die for new things to grow, right?
Yes.
So think about that from the standpoint of our mindset. Like sometimes we hold on so tightly to things that we need to let die.
Yes.
Sometimes things have to die so new things can evolve. And I think when we're in nature, if we really listen and watch, we can see that. And I think those lessons can become things that we absorb in our own lives.
It's beautiful. Definitely. Today, what do you think you're most proud of, or what would you say you're most proud of?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I would say one personal thing and one professional thing.
Mm-hmm.
So from a professional side, I would say that, I have built some things and I have created some things, and those things bring me a lot of joy. But ultimately, I think I'm kind of like shamelessly stealing this from Shirley Chisholm, because I just watched this movie.
Watched it. It was amazing.
I watched it. Well, one of the things she said is, I want to be a catalyst. No, remember, there's a catalyst for change. And when she said that, a light bulb kind of went off for me, because when I look at like the threads and all the different pathways my life has taken, and even the path that I'm on now, is that it's not that, okay, yeah, like she said, I was the first woman in Congress, and I guess I'm like, yes, I created this movement for Black girls, but I want to remember as a catalyst for change. And I think that is what's most important for me. It's like, let me be here in this plane as a catalyst for change. And especially change for Black women and girls.
Yes.
On the personal side, I'm always going to say that I'm most proud of my daughter. Like, I think that she is the purest, and the best thing that I have done is to be the mommy to this little girl and be able to, I want to say be a model for her of how to walk and be fully herself as she possibly can. And I'm most proud of that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know she's most proud of you as well.
I hope so.
I was just telling Joanne before we got on the call. I said I had to run from my daughter's school. They had an Easter egg hunt. I said, "All right, Mom, gotta go. I gotta go to work." But you know, just as moms, we make it happen. You know, supernatural abilities, and we are the example for them. You know, and I know that with them being a better version of us, you know, and that absolutely, of course, I can only imagine. I know because I'm here with you, but absolutely, most proud of that for sure. I want to ask you a few questions that we always ask our guests.
Okay.
What is your favorite hip hop artist? I'll start with that one.
Tupac Shakur.
Hey, love it.
No doubt. Without hesitation.
I love it. As we was talking, you know, Women's History Month, the significance of Women's History Month. As a Black woman, what do you think our role and our significance is in Women's History Month, and how do we continue to hold that value or hold that stake?
I think I would go back to what I said, you know, previously. I think if you look across history in whatever field, be it politics, be it social justice, be it philanthropy, be it education, Black women have, and be it entertainment, Black women have always been these catalysts for change. We've always been that. Yes. And so when I think of like our role and where our importance is in Women's History Month, not just this month, but like all the time, is ensuring that we don't lose these legacies, that these legacies are not forgotten, and that the things that we have done are remembered and they are celebrated.
Yes, most important for sure. What does Juneteenth mean to you?
Ooh, that one I think is easy. Like to me, Juneteenth means freedom, right? So, you know, when we think about, you know, why Juneteenth became something that we celebrate, it was all about freedom. And I think, you know, although our freedom looks different today, I think we're still on this quest towards freedom. But I think this time we have to be the ones that create the manifestation of it. And we need to know that, and we need to walk in that way.
Yes. If you could change 3 things in technology, what would you change?
Oh, 3 things in technology. I would say I would make technology accessible to every American. Like I think about this, I was like, oh, maybe this cheats, but I do think about this a lot. Like I think that when we think about what should be a right to, you know, access to food, water, security, that access to technology should be a right for everyone. No one should be limited because it's so endemic in everything that we touch. That would be one. Second, I would make sure that these the folks that have access to funding to build the technology is people that look like you and me. Like we need the money, we need those coins. And then I would say I would create protections for the most marginalized, for the people that live on the edges. These tools, these technologies need to be safe for us to not only survive, but to thrive.
Let me ask, and this is just a sidebar question, I'm just saying this as I'm listening to you, but is there a platform in technology, like overall, of like some kind of leadership, like somebody to speak, to create, you know, the outside of like government, but somebody to create basically like a platform for, okay, the do's and the don'ts, so, you know, what we're going to do in technology as a whole? Is there such thing as that, or is that just like,
I don't think it exists. You know, I think there are folks, you know, there are people that are, there's an organization that has this manifesto called The Tech We Want. And I would definitely recommend folks to explore that. that has brought together several different visionaries to kind of have this conversation and kind of codify what that looks like, a tech that is equitable for all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think right now it exists. I think it should exist. And I think that it's something that we need. And we may not get it with this generation. Maybe it'll come with the next.
If it is, and if we do, Miss Kimberly Bryant, she needs to be a part of that. Okay. I nominate her. Absolutely. 2 more questions and then I'm going to let you go. What is one thing that you feel you owe yourself now? What's one thing you feel you owe yourself later? And one thing you owe yourself one day?
One of the things that I think I owe myself now that I've really been trying to lean into is the joy.
Yes.
I feel like over the last decade a bit, like it's hard. Like, that when you're a builder and you're an innovator and entrepreneur, it is hard. And I often feel like I didn't take enough time to fully lean into those moments of joy. Yes. And I have really been trying to hold myself accountable in this next leg of my journey to not do things just because I should do things. I want to do things that bring me joy. Like I want to be in the center of my joy as much as I possibly can. And even if that means something as simple about having time to go to support my friend that's a filmmaker and they're doing a new film showing, they're doing a preview, like being able to do that, have time to do that, that brings me joy, or to go and speak at, to just be in a space with another creative friend that's doing this conversation around Baldwin. That's joy for me. Or to talk to other founders, that's joy. I owe myself that right now. And I'm trying to hold myself accountable to it. Next, I would say later is rest. Like I am not trying to build for like 30 more years. Like, no, like I'm done. I want rest. Like I still feel like I got this one last marathon in me that I want to achieve some things, but then I just want to rest. I just want to be in wherever I'm going to be on some land, raising some chickens and planting and just porch. I want rest.
Yes.
And then later I want to just have made a difference and left a legacy that others can build upon. That's what I want.
Amazing. I'm sure all will come through. Last question, what do you want the community to take away from our session today?
I would say simply that we have the capacity and we have the ability to be the creators of our own futures. And we need to own that and feel empowered to go and create the future, not just for ourselves, but for like our kids, for our grandkids, for our great grandkids. And everybody can do something. Everybody can do something. If you don't want to build yourself, then invest in building someone else's vision that helps us to live more fulfilled lives. And I think everybody can get involved and everybody can get activated.
Yes. Such an inspiration. It's been an honor and a pleasure speaking with you this afternoon, Ms. Bryant. This is, like I said, I'm going to hit the run back, the rewind and play it back and take my notes. I didn't want to have my pen right here and I start writing. I said, no, I'll wait till later and I'll let it soak in now, be in the moment. And then I'll go back and take my notes. But so much information that you gave and you shared today. So we definitely thank you for that. Please share your platforms and where people can contact and get in touch with you and things of that nature.
Yeah, so definitely right on the bottom of the screen, blackinnovationlab.org. You can reach out to me there. I'm 6 gems, the number 6 gems on almost every social platform, but also you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm an active networker on there. Definitely reach out. I love to network and connect with folks. So I'm so open to having those conversations with everyone.
I will absolutely be doing that as well. And for everybody that's tuned in right now, make sure you connect with us as well. Juneteenth, we have an information session that will be streaming live on April 3rd. Can we get that on the screen real quick? 7 p.m. April 3rd. If you are not a vendor yet, this is a chance for you to tap in with the information session to tell you all about our Juneteenth festival that will be June 14th to the 16th, well, extended to the 19th. Okay, so we have so many perks, benefits, things of that nature, payment plans. Please tap in with that. We go live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of those things. Okay, and secondly, for all of our models out there, the deadline is coming up April 1st for you to put your application in to become a model within the Juneteenth festival. So if you want to do that, please make sure you get that in this weekend. And for all of our hair and makeup artists, the deadline for your application is April 30th. Okay, so please tap in, head to our Instagram page, Juneteenth NY, and check out all of these things. Again, Miss Kimberly, thank you so much. I'll definitely be in touch with you soon. And make sure you guys all follow me on all social media platforms. That is Forever AMBG. You can check out foreverambg.com and make sure you check out I Had a Praying Grandmother, okay? And I Had a Praying Grandmother.shop. Until next week, this was an amazing conversation, an amazing way to end Women's History Month. As is Women's History, well, we create history every day, like we said. You know, we magnify it in this month, but every day keep being amazing, keep being great. And that wraps up today's episode. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yes. What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all dance groups, mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost, for having me on for Lunch and Learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there. All the hats. But we start
Special needs children and civilians.
I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructing what we took part in deconstruct. All the street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait
I also partner with other daycare. We're not in a competition yet. We're not in a competition.